Well, with us now to discuss the Eurozone, we have Amadou Altafraj Tardio, a spokesman for the European Commission. He joins us from the continent. Johanna Kirkland, who's a fund manager with Schroeder Investment Management. Peter Oborne, a journalist with The Telegraph, and Sir Richard Lambert, who, as well as being an ex-head of the CBI, once edited the Financial Times. Let's look at it from Brussels, first of all. Would you like to apologise, Mr. Altafraj Tardio, for the lack of European leadership on this crisis?
I don't think we have to apologise, but we have to call for a strong political will and a strong political response from European leaders to prevail over all these market fears and all the narrow-minded nationalisms. This is the risk that we have to avoid. We have to have a strong European response to a problem that has impact in all European citizens, from Athens to London, from Madrid to Helsinki.
So you believe that Europe's leaders are in control of events, do you?
Yes, I think so. European political leaders are taking very difficult decisions. It is very hard, for instance, to confront the public opinion with measures of austerity. Politicians usually don't like to do that. They know that this has a political cost for them, but still they are responsible enough to tell their citizens that accumulating debt and accumulating risks is the most antisocial behavior, and therefore they are ready to take the criticism and they are ready to discuss with their European partners.
Why don't the markets believe you?
Because there is something more than market logics here at stake. This is a political construction. We have kept the solidarity since the end of the Second World War. This is a political project, and we believe that this is the best way to ensure prosperity for our citizens, to maintain a welfare system that has no comparison all over the world. So there is a strong political will to keep these objectives, and therefore markets should believe that we will not let Greece down. We will not and we cannot avoid default by Greece, for instance, because the implications of such a development would be brutal for our citizens.
The British Foreign Secretary, William Hague, has described the euro as a burning building with no exits.
I fully disagree, and I think that there is a strong commitment by European leaders in the Eurozone and outside the Eurozone, and even elsewhere. For instance, we were in Washington in the IMF annual meetings a few days ago, and even politicians from the US, from China, from the emerging economies were encouraging the euro to take decisions and to provide a strong European response. So I don't understand why Mr. Hague will be less convinced than, for instance, Mr. Tingeiner in the United States.
Johanna Kirkland, why don't the markets take the same view of things?
Well, I think that the concern that markets are expressing is about the institutional framework in Europe and whether it's designed to make quick decisions. And I think the reality is that so far what we've seen over the last year is that there isn't a framework that allows quick decision making, and that's what you need in these kinds of markets.
So what they really don't like is precisely what we've just heard admitted,
yes,
which is this is a political project more than anything else.
Well, I think the fact that it's a political project, I mean, that's fine, and I don't think the markets are necessarily questioning that. But a political project does need to be supported by institutions that can cope with whatever the world economy throws at them. And the reality is that at the moment, those institutions haven't been apparent. And I think in particular, you know, so far all we've had is basically a case of European leaders saying, don't worry, it'll be all right, we won't let Greece go, without giving us any detail as to exactly how they're going to do that.
Peter Oborne, what did you make of what we heard from Brussels there?
It's mad, actually. It's really weird. He doesn't know what he's talking about. The idea this is a political problem, excuse me, mate, he's over there on the screen, it's an economic problem. The euro is collapsing under the weight of its own contradictions, and the idea that political will can solve an economic problem runs against the basic insight of none other than Karl Marx, which is that economics, in the end, trumps politics. These guys are in total and utter denial. It's terribly frightening listening to that idiot in Brussels.
Mr. Idiot in Brussels, would you like to respond?
No, I think that these words speak for themselves.
Okay.
Just one thing, this is not about being outside or inside the euro area. For instance, the UK in 2010 had a deficit which was exactly the same than Greece. So it's not the euro that's the problem. The euro is in fact a shield that has protected many of our economies, and that is a factor of stability and prosperity. We went through the most difficult crisis since the end of the Second World War, and all countries have experienced that.
Richard Lambert, you actually wanted us to join the euro at one point, didn't you?
Yeah, we felt back in the 90s that the euro was going to happen, whether Britain was part of it or not, that these were our major trading partners,
and
that the risks of going in were greater than the risk of staying out.
Yeah, but you were wrong.
The facts changed. The facts changed. I mean, what happened was the rules weren't obeyed. France and Germany broke the rules. The banks were undercapitalized. Massive capital imbalances across the euro area weren't fixed. And when the biggest financial shock in 100 years came along, the euro was in a bad place.
Can I just come in on this?
Of course you
were
would, yes.
editor of the Financial Times during this period. It was predicted very, very clearly by a large number of people, Margaret Thatcher, William Hague, the Tory leader, who the FT sneered at day in and day out. The FT didn't give this story proper economic analysis. It saw it, it took the line of that idiot in Brussels that this is a political project, and even though you were a financial newspaper, you didn't apply economic analysis. You took the political view. And by the way, I've got a book, I brought a present for you when I heard you were coming on this programme, Guilty Men. You're one of them, and I suggest you read it. It analyses the performance. It goes on with it analyses the performance of the Financial Times.
Can I ask him a question?
Yeah.
Guilty Men was a phrase used by Michael Foot in 1940.
In 1940, and it was about
people who
appeasers, wasn't
appeased
it?
the Nazis.
Yeah.
In your view, is Chancellor Merkel, is President Barroso, are they today's equivalents of the Nazi Party?
You are one of a group of people who, had you had your way, we would now be in the position of Greece. We'd be taking orders from the EU and the IMF. Britain's economic security would have been destroyed. Our political independence would no longer exist if the Financial Times had had its way.
Do we want to go on like this, or should we talk about what's happening now? Do we want to go
Let's talk about Greece.
Yeah.
Do you accept that it is now likely that Greece will fall out of the euro?
I think it is likely, yes. I think, personally, I feel that the numbers now are impossible to manage. And it seems to me there are a number of scenarios. On the one hand, I think the extreme positions, namely a collapse of the euro, is very unlikely because the economic and political consequences would be a disaster. I think a fiscal union is very unlikely. The question is it possible to get an orderly way of getting Germany and Greece to withdraw from the eurozone? Is it possible to do that? I think it might be, and I think it's something that.
Getting Germany to withdraw from the eurozone?
No, getting Germany to support Greece in a withdrawal.
In withdrawal?
Yeah, because they would need massive liquidity, massive support for their banks.
What's the received wisdom? I know it changes from day to day in the markets, but go on. What is it as of now about Greece's future?
Well, I think actually if Greece was actually to withdraw from the euro, that would be potentially extremely destabilising because of the impact that would have on the Greek banking system. I think there is certainly need to restructure the debt, but our hope would be that they could restructure their debt without having to leave the euro, because I think that would really massively increase the chances of contagion to the rest of Europe if that was to happen.
Unless it were possible for the ECB and for Germany to provide fiscal support and liquidity.
I think those fire breaks can help if Greece is restructuring its debt.
Yeah,
I don't know if
but
they
that
can.
has to happen.
I don't think if they can help necessarily to offset the consequences of Greece leaving the euro. I think that might be a fire that's just too big.
And Peter Oborne, you think that Greece will fall out?
Well, it's inevitable that the Greeks will fall, and of course it's enormously in the Greek interest to get out of the euro, because the moment it does, it will be able to be competitive. And one of the points which nobody's quite made here is the total inhumanity of the euro. The euro is destroying the livelihoods of millions of Greek businesses, millions of Greek people.
Well, we're going to hear a bit from Greece and some of the human consequences.
And what the euro elite, that idiot in Brussels,
will you stop referring to him as this idiot? That is just offensive.
No, he is. You listen to the low quality, the catastrophic quality of his economic analysis.
You may think that he's out of contact with reality. That does not. He's now walking out of the studio in Brussels.
Good.
Well done. We can't even hold him to account now. Because you've just been gratuitously offensive to him.
Well, unfortunately, listening to this man talking such nonsense over a matter of such importance which affects the lives of millions and millions of people, and listening to that nonsense, it's offensive to decent people who want jobs.
What about this proposition that we heard earlier today from Mr. Barroso, who is presumably the boss of our friend in Brussels, who's just walked out of the studio? He clearly believes there is a solution, and the solution is stronger political union and fiscal union. Is that even a starter, given what's happened to the euro?
I think it's unlikely, because for two reasons. One is just the time it would take, treaty revisions, political dramas that would take place on the way. Two is it wouldn't address the fundamental problem which has emerged, which is that the southern European countries are a lot less competitive than the northern European countries. That, you know, were they to be locked into a fiscal union, they would face years of austerity and of the only way they could get to a competitive place would be if their prices fell year after year after year. And
Johanna Kirkland, I mean, is he in fantasy land there?
Well, I think that actually the issue is you can't keep imposing austerity on the southern European economies, because that's not going to sort out their debt problems.
They've got to grow.
Yeah, because the problem is it's probably going to have a bigger impact on the GDP than it will on the debt. I think ultimately Germany has to step in and say that it's willing to bail out its neighbours, and that ultimately that money will be flowing from northern Europe to southern Europe.
Well, we're going to hear from Germany shortly.